Good morning, everybody. It's Sunday morning. It's time for our regular stamping session. My name is Tracy Held. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Melbourne, in Australia. Let me show you what we're going to do today. So that's our card that we're going to do. It's quite fun. I'm sure that you're not going to find it difficult. Very technical here. But let me show you what we're using. So again, I'm using the Sending Smiles stamp set, and we're using the coordinating dies, which as per usual are the wrong way around. Okay, so we've got all of those. The DSP that I'm using is the Texture Chic DSP. It's one that I used last week or the week before, I can't remember, so you're going to see it coming up really often because it's really pretty. This side has got all those gold accents, and then if you turn it over, you've got a more mottled look, but lots of different colors, very versatile. I really like this DSP. Okay, now this is not a complicated card at all, and what I'm going to do, which is a bit unusual for me, is I'm going to start the card, then do my stamping, but you'll see the logic behind it once we get there. Okay, so for this card, I'm going to use Crumb Cake. Standard card base. I have put all the measurements up for you. And then with this one, I'm going to use that piece of DSP. It's got that floral image on, so I really like that one. And what I've done is I cut it to my normal size. So it would be your normal first layer, 14.4 by 10 centimeters or 5¼ by 4 inches. And then I've just cut it in half. So I just thought it's easier if I've got it as a standard size, and then we're just using half of it each time. Now what I'm going to do is stick this down roughly in the middle of my card. It doesn't have to be exact. I guess the thing that I'm trying to do here more than anything else is just get my sides even so that we've got that normal little gap on either side. Then I'm taking, this is a square, 10 by 10 centimeters. Again, it made it easier because it's the same length as my DSP, or rather width, and I don't then need to worry about which is the long side and which is the short side. We may need to cut it down a little bit, but that's okay. It's easier to cut down rather than have it too short and you can't add extra bits in it. Okay, so here's our very complicated bit for today. You're just going to rip this and try and tear it that it sort of goes bigger and smaller so that you've got that jagged, almost wavy look. And then we can see if I put this down, that's okay. I maybe wanted just a little bit that I've got slightly more of the DSP showing through. So what I'm going to do is just cut a fraction, like 2 millimeters, so probably a 1/16 of an inch maybe, off the edge of both of them, and that's just going to give me that little bit more of the DSP showing through. And now the only thing we just want to make sure is that we've actually got it the right way, and it doesn't matter which is the top and which is the bottom, but we want it to look like that matches. So if I flipped it, then my sort of waves in the cardstock don't match up that well. and we're going to stick this. So again, because I've got my DSP stuck, I can match up the edges, and I'm just trying to give an even gap at the bottom and the same on the top. Okay, so that was our most technical part of making the card. Right, now that I've got this, I'm going to do my stamping. So the reason that I wanted to do this is because I'm going to stamp onto this bit of cardstock over here. But for me, it was easier to have it in position that I could see where I was working rather than stamping it and then maybe not getting it in the right spot. Okay, so I've got soft suede, which I think should work on the crumb cake. It is usually dark enough on the crumb cake. And this time I'm going to use the note of thanks. And here's where we hold my breath and hope that it comes out straight. Good enough? Okay, and then we need some scrap paper and my insert. So I'm going to do both of them at the same time. Soft succulent ink. My blocks are all sticking together. Not a good idea to pile the blocks up when you've got a stamp on it. So we're just going to stamp the stem. And I may just stamp off here, so we'll put it. Okay, there we go for the insert. And then put this one away. I'm using Rich Razzleberry. And what I decided on this one is that I like it, but I think it's a little bit dark. So second time around, I'm actually going to stamp off and then stamp my flower. And I know that you can't see what I'm doing here, but I'll just try and explain it to you. Here when I'm stamping, I'm putting a fair amount of pressure on the stamp, so you can see it stamps off a lot of the color. That there it's coming up fairly light. Now, when I'm going to stamp my my half one, I'm going to just stamp off lightly so that it's going to be a little bit darker than what that one was. And you can see here, maybe you can see, it didn't actually stamp evenly. Let's hold that up. When I stamped it off, can you see that? And I'm quite fine with that, because if I'm getting little bits that are darker in between, that's okay. Alright, and then this stamp set has the most teeny tiny little dies that you can imagine for the centers of the flowers. So it centers in soft suede, and again, there I stamped full and they're quite dark, so I'm going to just stamp off. Okay, that one's a bit skew, but what I sometimes find with this is that if you haven't covered it, you've got a bit more white, just go and stamp over and it just makes it a little bit bigger, darker, but that's okay for the center of a flower. And then for that half one, we've got a different center. go. And alright, so I don't know what everybody else thinks. Ooh, that didn't stamp very well. There we go. You know, whether you prefer it stamped off or full strength. I think that I like the softer look with it stamped off, but you can do whatever you like. Okay, and then we're going to take these and run them through the cut and emboss machine, and we have our pieces ready to go. Now I have cut out my sending as well, so I've cut that out of my soft suede, so it is darker. And when I'm using this, I always put adhesive sheet behind it. I just found that that makes it so much easier to work with rather than trying to get glue on the back of this really narrow writing. Now, the one thing to remember with this die is that the eye has a little dot. So it's teeny tiny and it is easy to forget. For this time, I'm not going to worry about it because I'm actually going to put a pearl to dot my eye. But just remember about the eye dot when you're using it. Okay, so we're going to put the flower first because I want the sending to go over. Well, it has to go over because of the length of it. So we just need to see where we're going to position that so that that's going to cover. All right, so roughly there. And I obviously had stamped something on this piece of paper and then decided that I wasn't using it, so we use the back. You just want to give a little bit of space on that one so that my half flowers, I mean, it doesn't mind if it's slightly off the card, but we don't want it to be hanging too far over because otherwise it's not going to fit into the envelope. And then one thing about having the stuff on your nails is that it makes your nails thicker, that it's hard to get in between bits and pieces. Okay, there we go. And because I've got the adhesive sheet on, it's just going to stick really easily. Except that we'll try and get it somewhat straight. I'm not very good. I probably should have a ruler to line it up, but we'll just... Okay, that's really going up at an angle. Let me try again. Does everybody else battle to get things straight, or is it just me? Still not happy. I'm going to see if I lift this end up a little bit. Maybe that'll help. Okay, I think that that looks better, hopefully. And then we're going to pop my flowers up onto dimensionals. And just for a change, I did have dimensionals here, but they have disappeared. I don't know what it is that my dimensionals just refuse to stick around for Facebook Lives. That's okay. I've got an almost used pack, so we'll just cut the edges and pop them on. I would have just used one on the back here, but because they're little, we're going to go with the two. And of course, our insert needs to go inside the card. And as easy as that, we're done. Oh no, we're not. We're not. We need to add our bling because a card is not complete without bling. Okay, so like I said, we're going to just use a pearl to dot the I. And then I'm just going to put one of each of the different size pearls going down the side. There we go. Now we're finished. So that's our cards for today. I really like the look of that torn bit with the DSP poking through the middle. So I hope that you like that. Now I'll just give you a heads up, next week Stampin' Up! Is having that Creativity Now weekend, so we've got some products from the new catalogue and we're having a whole virtual gathering on Saturday night, but I'm going with a group of girls down to Rye, so I'm not going to be here for our normal Sunday live. But what I'm going to do is we're doing a shoebox swap. So I'm not showing you the card now because I don't want anybody to see it before we get together. But I'm going to do a recording of how I did my shoebox swap, and I'll upload that at 10 o'clock next Sunday. So, you know, when they always said this TV program was filmed in front of a live studio audience, so you'll have a pre-filmed Facebook Live, and that'll be up for you next Sunday. Have a good week. If you're in Melbourne, stay warm. At least our weather's going to be improving slightly, so not as cold as it is at the moment. And I won't see you in person next week, but like I said, you'll have my video and I'll be back again in person the week after. Till then, bye.